Hi, this is Jade with trans-coding.com. Today we're going to take care of a couple of housekeeping items with downloads, and then we're going to start by building up our server and the first couple of pieces of software that we're going to need for coding our actual website. So we're going to start by getting Sublime Text. It's a text editor. If you don't want to get a text editor, go ahead and skip ahead. In the notes underneath, I will go ahead and include a timestamp so that you can skip ahead if you don't want to get Sublime Text. So we're going to start by going to sublimetext.com. You'll see at the top here that there's a download. For me, that's going to be Windows if you're on a Windows system. If not, it'll say for Linux or Mac. It should detect your operating system automatically. Go ahead and click that. You'll see it's going to download in the bottom left there for your browser, whichever your browser happens to be. Go ahead and set up that download. While that goes, we'll grab the rest. We're also going to need Apache. We're going to grab Apache 2.4. That's going to be at Apache Lounge /download. And from here, you're going to want to choose the one for your operating system for Windows. For Mac and Linux, you won't need to download Apache, and so you can check the notes for the command line options for that. So we'll go ahead and download Apache 2.438 for Windows 64 or 32-bit if you're working with a 32-bit operating system. In addition to that, you can see here that there are checksums. If you're worried about checksums and you're not downloading from ApacheLounge.com, you may want to do that and have those checksums done to make sure that your download is a proper download. Last but not least, we're going to want to get PHP for Windows. That's going to be at windows.php.net/releases/archives. So you can see here that there are multiple versions of PHP 5.2. If you want to go with an older version, 5.2, you can. In most cases, if you are learning this for the first time, you would be just fine downloading PHP 5.69 for Windows 64-bit or 32-bit. Those are going to be these Win32s here. For me personally, I'm going to go with PHP 7.2. It's going to be one of the newest versions of PHP. And the reason I'm doing that is I want some of the enhancements that PHP 7.2 brings. So I'm going to download PHP 7.2.9, and I'm getting the 64-bit version for Windows. Alright, so you can see we have our downloads here. This HTTPD is Apache's server. We have PHP 7.2.9 and Sublime Text. The first one I'm going to install is going to be Sublime Text. It should take just a few seconds. You will need to give admin control to install. And I'm just going to install it to the default position at Program Files. Once that's complete, I'm going to the file location for Sublime Text 3, and I'm just going to create a desktop shortcut so we can easily open that when needed. Once we have Sublime Text 3 open, you'll see that it's unregistered. If you do have a license key for it, feel free to register yours. If not, it's always free, it's fully functional, and every once in a while you will get a nag that says please register. I think it's around $10 to $15 to register, but don't feel obligated to do so. As mentioned previously, if you are going to use Sublime Text, there's a couple of reasons why we want to use it. The main reason that we want to use it is because of package control. And package control basically means that we're going to use a couple of installations along with Sublime Text to make the program more robust. So the first thing we're going to do is install package control. So if you're on a Windows, you're going to hold down Control, Shift, and the letter P, and then you're going to type in package, find install package control, and hit enter. If you're on a Mac, you're going to hit Command, Shift, and P, and the same thing. Start typing in package, and then install package control. Once that's done, we can go hit OK, and we can then use the package control to install a package. So you can see here it remembers that I started typing in package, Command-Shift-P to open up the window, click Install Package, and now we can start looking for things. I'm going to download a couple of packages for PHP, JavaScript, MySQL, and a few other programming languages just so that we can make things a little bit easier as we edit text files. The first package we're going to look for is called Alignment. And here it is at the top here, and it says exactly what it does. It's easy alignment of multiple selections and multi-line selections. So that's the first one I'm going to download. Once it's done, it should install by itself. It doesn't necessarily tell us, but we're just going to keep going. The next package we want to install is going to be called Bracket Highlighter, as well as Color Highlighter. You can see as these packages get installed, some of them are going to create a text file and give us a little bit of README information. Next up for install is CSS3, which is CSS support for Sublime Text 3. I also like to use Doc Blocker with a comment updater, and Emmet, E-M-M-E-T. For those that are used to working with the command line, if you want to have control over Sublime in the same sort of way, you'll want to pick up the File Commands control package. And if you are going to use GitHub in any form, you'll want to use GitGutter. That's going to let you see any changes that have been made to the file on the GitHub. I also recommend the minifier. Not everyone likes to use the sidebar, but when and if you get used to it, sidebar enhancements is a great option. The next series of installs is going to be the Sublime linter set. Linters are basically pre-compile checkers. So they're going to look at your code and they're going to give you errors so that you can look at things prior to actually running them in the program. So the main program for that is going to be Sublime linter. And then each of the packages that goes along with that is going to be based on the language we want. So the first one is CSSLint, followed by JavaC, followed by JSHint, followed by PHP, followed by JSON, that's JSON, and that should cover everything that we need. Prior to installing Apache, you'll remember that we saw some checksums to verify the download of the file. Now, if you're downloading the same file version as me, you'll see that there's this checksum that follows this SHA-256. This is going to be used to verify that the file that we downloaded is in fact the original file. Now, not everyone would need to do this. If you downloaded it from ApacheLounge.com, you wouldn't necessarily have to check it. But if you did not download the original, then you might want to check it yourself. So we're going to hit Windows R, CMD. This is going to work for Windows 10 and Windows 7. And from here, we can actually run our own checksum of the file to verify that we did in fact download the correct file. To do that, we're going to type certutil, that's capital C-E-R-T-U-T-I-L, space dash hash file, space, and now we need the path. The path for me is going to be right here in the properties. That's C:users, my name, /downloads. / the name of the file, httpd -2.4.38 -164 -vc15. And this is a zip file. So you can see for the SHA-1, it starts 3A83D3, and you can see their SHA-1 starts the same way. You could verify the entire number set if you want to. Looks the same to me. So we've completed a SHA-1 hash that verifies it. If you wanted to verify it as a SHA-256, it would be the exact same command, certutil -hash file the path, and then after that you're going to specify the type of hash you'd like to do. For us, that would be SHA-256, and you can see for that one it starts out with D56D256, and there's the match there, D56D25. Everything matches up accordingly. Now that we've verified that, we're going to go ahead and set up a place for this file to go. So, we're only going to need the Apache 24 file folder. We're going to go ahead and cut that from the zip file. I'm going to store mine on the P drive. So in the P drive, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to name my folder server. And inside of that folder, I'm going to create another folder. We're going to call that bin. And inside of the bin is where we're going to place the Apache 24 folder. While that moves inside of the server folder, I'm also going to create a folder called data. And this is going to be the directory later where we install our SQL server and our database. So inside of that data folder, we can create another folder that we'll call DB for our database. And last, a folder called htdocs. htdocs. That's going to contain all of our website information. So DB for database, htdocs for our websites. Alright, this is Jade with trans-coding.com, and now we're on a Mac system. We're going to go ahead and install Apache on here. There are some pieces that I won't be able to go through, but we will cover most of the basics, and you'll be able to cover the rest yourself with the instructions provided. The first step we're going to do is open up a terminal. In order to do that, you'll need to go into your Applications folder. From there, you'll want to go into Utilities, and then find the terminal. Double-click on that to open up your terminal, and inside of that, it's going to give you a prompt. Once you have that prompt, you're going to need to create a site folder. In order to create a folder, we're going to type the command mkdir, that's make directory, and you're going to want to create that in the base folder. That's going to be the little tilde that's right above the tab key on the left with a shift, and then sites. Go ahead and hit enter to build that, and then you're going to need to know who you are. So you're going to ask the computer, who am I? And it's going to give you the name. You'll notice that that may be exactly the same name as is to the left of the $sign. And then you're going to need to build a file folder for Apache 2. So we're going to use the command touch. That's going to build a folder. We're going to use the command touch space /etc/apache2/users/j.conf. That J that you see there is the username that we just looked up by typing in who am I. You're going to type enter after you use that. If that command doesn't work the way it was typed out, you may need to use sudo. The command sudo tells the computer to act as an administrator. This is similar to administrator rights in Windows. So you'll type sudo and then the same command again. Sudo touch /etc/apache2/users/ the name that was just listed above .conf. And then again, if you had to use sudo, you'll want to use sudo again. nano /etc/apache2/users/the username .conf. If your computer has a password, you'll need to provide it now, and you may have had to provide it in the last part as well. Inside of this file, I'm going to give you a few documents to copy and paste, and you'll go ahead and take care of that shortly. As you can see here, this is the file that we're going to copy. It's directory, users, username, sites, and then the rest of that, all the way down to the closing tag there, /directory. Once you've copied and pasted, make sure again that you remove this tag set here and the brackets for username and replace that with your username that is set up on your system. Then go ahead and exit and save. Next up, we're going to change the permissions for some of the files that we'll be modifying. So we're going to use sudo chmod, that's chmod, /etc/apache2/users/your username.conf. In the notes, I will provide a link to Stack Overflow. Most Mojave users won't experience any error messages at this point, but if you do, I will provide a link on the notes to Stack Overflow, just in case you do receive an error message for forbidden permission files at this point, and there should be a quick fix in there for you should you need it. Next up, we're going to be making some changes to the httpd config file. Those changes that we make to that file are going to be almost identical to those versions on Windows, so we're going to go ahead and go back to the Windows machine, and you can follow along with those changes there. Alright, now that Apache is finished moving over to that directory, we can get started changing a couple of the configuration files for that. So first we're going to go to the place that we put our server file. For me, that is p:/server. Then we're going to open up the bin folder, go to Apache 24, then conf, and then we're going to locate httpd.conf, and you're going to open it with your text editor of choice. For me and those that are following along, that's going to be Sublime Text 3. If that's not in the list, make sure you look for another app on this PC, and you're going to need to locate Sublime Text 3. Within this file, the first thing you're going to want to find is the server root. You can do that with a Control F to find, and srv rrot. You can see that's right here, and we're just going to change the location of that to the directory location where we actually put it. Once we've done that, we're going to replace the server name. So I'm going to remove this hash mark so that we can take the commented code out, and I'm going to change that to whatever you want your local home page to be called. Most people are going to call that localhost, and since that's the convention, I'm not going to balk at it. Let's go with convention and call it localhost. Next up, we're going to look for document root. Here it is, and we're going to change srv root with our server's root. So for us, that was server/data/htdocs. The next thing we're changing is the document root. That is right here, and we're going to change this set on server root here to server/data as we did before. And we're going to also change that directly beneath that with this tag for directory. The next thing we're going to change is our directory index, so we're going to make a search for that. Now when you do a search with Control F, I typed in the word index, you can just hit enter over and over again and it'll just jump from index to index to index throughout the document. Here I have this directory index set and it has index.html. For the indexes on your page, I want to have more than just index.html, so I'm going to set up a series of index pages. The first one is going to be index.php, and I also want to have index.htm. What that means is when I reference my server folder, data/htdocs, whatever file is in here, as long as it has the name index.php, htm, or html, those will be the first files that are pulled and used as my index files. Next, we're going to search for allow override, and anywhere we see the word none, we're going to change it to all. I'm going to search for that a couple of times, and I'm only going to do it for those words all and none. I'm sorry, make sure to capitalize the A on all. So I'll have to go back and get the one from before. Alright, last we're going to want to look for a line called mod rewrite. And we're going to want to uncomment that line. We will be using that quite often. That should be all that we need to set up Apache. There may be a few things that we come back and remove later on for PHP or for SQL at a later date, but for now, these are the only requirements for Apache. Once you've made all of the necessary changes to that file, go ahead and close it. It'll ask you to save the changes. Go ahead and press yes, and then you can close or minimize Sublime Text. Now that we've modified all those files, we're going to go ahead and install Apache officially onto our Windows system. In order to do that, we're going to need the PowerShell. So I'm going to hit the Windows key and the X key simultaneously, and then we're going to bring up the Windows PowerShell as an administrator. Go ahead and press yes if you need to. Alright, now that we have the PowerShell up, we're going to type in our first command. So first up, we're going to type the location of the file folder that we were just in. For me, that's going to be p:/bin. Make sure you use backslashes. Apache 24 /bin /httpd.exe space -k space install. And you can see in this line here that it says the Apache 24 service is successfully installed. It says testing httpd.conf underneath that, and errors reported must be corrected. So we have a syntax error on line 250. Let's go ahead and take care of that. So we're going to go back to the httpd config, and we're going to go to line 250. So that error is this $sign here. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Save out. At any point, if you do receive a notice that you need to give access for the firewall, go ahead and allow access for that as well. Next up, we're going to go ahead and start the server. That's going to be the same location, and we're going to start this time instead of install. If you have issues when you try and start your server and it says this OS 10.0.13 an attempt was made to access a socket in a way that's forbidden by its access permissions, that means that port 80 is in use. You'll have to find another port. What that means then is that we'll have to go back to our Apache 24 config file. We'll open up HTTPD. In the HTTPD config file, underneath the server root that we defined before here with the $sign in front of it, you'll see the listen port that's defined, and it says listen 80. This is where the port is defined. You could go and find your own port, but convention says that if 80 is taken, we're just going to use 8080. So go ahead and type that in, save it, and close the file. Then we can go back in, and we can type in and start the service. So you can see here it says that 8080 is already taken, but I already started the service. So if 8080 is taken on yours, you'll have to choose another one. Try 8081, 8082, and so on, until you get one that you press start, and you get no error messages. Once you've done that, go ahead and open up your internet service provider of choice, whether it be Chrome, Edge, Internet Explorer, Firefox, doesn't matter which. Go ahead and type in localhost, and the number that was chosen. For me, that's going to be 8080. For you, if you didn't make any changes, it'll be 80. And again, whatever number was in it. Go ahead and type that in, and you should see index of /. That tells you that your Apache server is up and running, and we can start playing around with building onto that with PHP. So in order to get PHP running, we're going to go back to the downloads where we saved those files. Here we have PHP 7.2.9. You may have downloaded a version of 5.9. Go ahead and take the contents of this entire folder. It may give you an error that opening these files is harmful to your computer. Go ahead and click OK. We did download them from a safe source. If you downloaded them from somewhere other than the official PHP site, please make sure that you check the hash sums like we showed earlier. Go to your server file, that's going to be server, then open the bin, and go ahead and paste them inside of a file that we're going to create called, you guessed it, PHP. Once your PHP files have migrated, we're going to need to go back into our Apache 24 file. We're going to go into the config as we did before. Open httpd.conf with your text editor of choice. We're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and add in the lines that we need to make sure that PHP is going to work as intended. So we're going to type in capital PHP, capital I, and then capital DIR. Space, open quotes, and you'll see one of the benefits of Sublime Text is it's going to automatically add a closing quote every time we put in an open quote. It'll do the same thing with parentheses and other sets as well. The next line is going to be add handler application /x-httpd-php space.php. And the next line is going to be load module, capital L, capital M, php7 underscore module. And then we're going to put in our directory. It's server/bin/php/php7 apache2 underscore 4.dll. Once we've done that, we're going to need to go ahead and save our config file again. And then we're going to close out of Sublime, go back to our PowerShell, and we're going to restart our Apache server. Again, if there are no errors, you shouldn't see anything come up inside of your shell. Now it's time to create our first official PHP file. Double click in an empty spot in Sublime text navigation bar up top here. And I'm going to type my PHP tags. In order to do that in Sublime text, first I'm going to go down here to the bottom and choose PHP as my editor. And then I'm going to do a save as. And I'm going to go to my server file, data htdocs, and I'm going to give this file a name. Let's call it index. And now, normally you would type PHP tags anytime you wanted to open and close your PHP commands. So you would use an open caret $PHP and then at the end a $close caret. And then inside of that is going to have any of our PHP commands that we're going to use to actually run PHP. However, in Sublime Text, we don't have to go through all of that trouble because it recognizes that if we type PHP, that we're attempting to do PHP tags. So we can type PHP, hit tab, and it will automatically write those tags for us. And then PHP info, open, close. Now, what PHP info should do is on our web page, it's going to give us all of the information that we need about our PHP version. So again, we'll save this as index.php, and then we will go back to our web page. I'll just refresh, and you can see because we called it index.php, it's automatically going to load that page for us. You can see it's going to tell us about our system, all of the PHP information. We have Zend, which is not currently enabled, etc. Down a little bit further here, you can see that we're using Apache 2.4 for Windows 64, and our PHP version is 7.2.9. Surprise, surprise, that's exactly what we installed. So that's exactly what we expect to see. You can see in the environment here, the local host 8080 is exactly the same as the page that we're on. Now that we have PHP installed, we have a few more things to configure in that, and then we will do a couple of security features for Apache to make sure that your computer is safe as well. So we're going to go back to our server/bin/php folder now, and we're going to look for the file called php.ini-development. We're going to go ahead and rename that to just php.ini. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and open that with the text editor of choice. Inside of here, we're going to go ahead and remove a couple of semicolons. This is the way that PHP is going to make comments in their ini file. So the first one we're going to look for is the extension directory. Here we go. And we are working on Windows. If you were working on Mac, you would want to change the one directly above it. For us, we're going to change Windows. So our extension directory is going to be the same extension that we were using before. That's p:/server/bin/php/ext/. Now we're going to look for a group of strings that's going to start with extension equals bz2. Here we go. In this group, there's really only a couple of strings that we actually want to leave commented. So it's actually going to be faster if we uncomment all of them. So I'm going to highlight all of those, and then I'm going to hold Shift-Control-L. That's going to put a cursor on every single line. Then I'm going to go to the beginning of the line with the home key, and then I'll go one to the left and hit backspace. So you can see I've uncommented all of these lines. Now I can go back and put a comment on the line that says interbase, and the line for OCI 812 because we're not using an Oracle database, and I'm not using Firebird, and again we're not using Oracle, so we won't need PDO OCI. The rest of these we may or may not use, but most of them are going to be related to either zip files of some form, URL interaction, PHP interaction, or database interaction. So we're going to leave the rest of these up and running. Now we're going to go to the next group of strings, and for them we're going to search for the term SOAP, S-O-A-P. For this group of strings, again, we're going to uncomment all of them from SOAP to XSL. So I'm going to highlight all of them, then I'm going to hold Control-Shift-L to put a cursor on each line, hit home, go right once, and then backspace. You could perform the same exact set on a Mac by holding the Command-Shift-L and then moving to the left and deleting from there. Once you've cleared these lines, I believe that covers all of the INI file that we need to take care of, so go ahead and save out, and then restart Apache once again. Okay, that takes care of installation of Apache and PHP, and as you saw on our window, we had PHP info come up, and that's still working with the changes that we've made to our file. Last for today, we are going to go ahead and make a few changes to our Apache file so that we can bolster security a little bit. Because we are making a server on the system, we do want to make sure that it's not able to be accessed by outside sources. So once again, we are going to go back to the httpd.config file. So if you don't remember where that is, let's go ahead and navigate there. For me, that's on my local disk P, server, bin, Apache 24, configs, httpd config. I'm going to navigate to the top of this file in my text editor of choice, and then I'm going to look for that first listen line that is here. And as you can see in the commented line above, there's an IP address. The common IP address for a home user is going to be 127.0.0.1. Go ahead and put that in, and then put a colon, and leave the port number there that we installed earlier. Go ahead and save that, and you'll need to restart your Apache server later. The only other file we're going to build today is an htaccess file. It allows you to specify IP addresses that are allowed to access your specific website, and for that we're going to type in capital require, space IP, space, and then your IP address. For your home system, that's going to be 127.0.0.1. If you want to specify more than that and allow multiple systems at your home to access it, that would be 127.0.0.0 / and then the number of systems at your house. For me, I'm going to put 10. That would mean that everything from 127.0.0.1 through 10 can access the server. As a final note, in your htaccess file, you can also put in the word require local. And this will make sure that only local servers are able to access your PHP My Admin folder. Once you've gone and restarted your Apache server, you should be able to refresh and still see that you can access your PHP file. Now the next time you do start up your system, you will want Apache and PHP to start with it, so we're going to have to let Windows know how to actually do that. You won't need to worry about this on a Linux or Mac because that's taken care of when you install that for it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and hit the Windows key, and then we're going to type in edit the system environment variables. From here we're going to choose environment variables. Then in the Windows system variables you're going to click on path and then edit, and here we're going to add in some new ones. The first one we're going to add in is PHP, and we want to move that high enough that it's above System 32. And you'll also want to have Apache. Last but not least, go ahead and put in the server bin file, and that's going to have to appear before PHP and Apache 24. That should be everything that we need to have PHP and Apache set up in our system. The next time you restart, it should restart with your system, and you shouldn't have any issues from here on out. Next time we'll actually start building a web page, and we'll first talk about HTML, then we'll move into CSS, and we'll see where that takes us from there. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you like the series and you want to see what's coming up next, please press the subscribe button, and make sure to share it with your friends. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Jade, and this is trans-coding.com.